So here we go again with another session of the A Child's Memories vlog. I've been holding out on this one for a minute because I'm not sure everybody's gonna love it, but let me tell you what happened. So recently there was some conversation in the media about it was about Pete Buttigieg or something, and how older black people wouldn't like him or vote for him because he's gay, and because, essentially they're racist. They don't like white people and they're gay. And of course, you always hear people say, oh, black people, how can black people be racist or prejudiced? That is not a thing. Yeah, it's a thing. Maybe not in the same way that white people can be prejudiced, but let me tell you a little story. And I think I talk about it in the book a little bit. I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to go ahead and give you the skinny. So, give you a little background. My best friend growing up, his name was Frank Chavez, and he lived next door to me. We've been friends since we've been like 2, 3, 4, I don't know, something ridiculous. He lived with his grandparents, and I lived with mine. When I wasn't with my mom, we were both always there, right? And his dad used to come visit him sometimes, and I thought I was the only one whose parent would come visit them at their grandparents' house. Just some weird stuff. Anyways, we've just been friends forever. Frank had a little dog, and I used to throw rocks at the dog as little as 4. Ridiculous. It was all fun though. So yeah, we've been friends forever. Yes, Frank Chavez, he's Hispanic. And we've stayed friends elementary, junior high school, high school. It is what it is. So that's my first experience with somebody outside of my culture, right? San Jose is very multicultural. So there's everything was around. Frank just happened to live next door to me. And throughout our years in elementary school, junior high school, of course, we have friends of every nationality. I did have a lot of Hispanic, Latino friends, but I had a lot of friends. So it is what it is. So anyways, junior high school, it was junior high school. And one day my uncles came in to my grandmother's house and they were like, we need to talk to you. It's time that we had this talk. And it was about 6 of them. So I was like, okay, like this was so weird. And they just felt like, they about to school me. Like, we need to tell you about some stuff, school you, young girl. And I was like, okay, some stuff that might change your life. And I was like, all right. So, I'm 12, 13. I'm sitting there listening to my uncles who I have a lot of respect for. So I'm not going to be disrespectful no matter what they say, but I'm kind of scared because this has never happened before. And if you read my book, my uncles are crazy. They put hands on women, and I've seen that too. So I don't know what this conversation is going to be about. Check it. So they start talking about, we've been seeing you hang out with a lot of Mexicans, and we want to let you know that Mexican people, they will gang up on you and they will beat you up and stab you and leave you there to die. They will. And I was like, they know Frankie. Frankie lives next door. Frankie's never done that. I've never heard of anyone doing that. Okay, so they just keep talking. And I'm like, no, I've never, you don't know, you're young and you don't know nothing. And we trying to keep you alive and I'm like, keep me alive. Like at this point, I don't even think I've been in a fight or nothing. So I'm trying to figure out like, what is going on? They literally talked for about 45 minutes about how Mexicans will gang up on you and beat you up and stab you up and leave you for dead. And we just don't want that to happen to you. So you need to stop hanging out with Mexican people. I was like, I'm not going to say no. First of all, I've seen them put hands on people before. So I'm not about to be like, oh no, uncle. No, I'm like, okay, sure. What I learned later in life, because for a long time I was like, they're fucking crazy. Like that's some crazy shit to tell a kid. But what I learned later in life is that, well, one of my uncles had been beat up and left for dead. I don't know if there was some Hispanics around that situation, but what I do know is that this fool had been beat up and left for dead. Literally. And I also, throughout my years, have had conversations, because there's many times that I don't agree with a lot of things, or I like to delve deep into situations to find out why people think the way that they do. And, I think it was a friend of mine, Doug Hartcastle, and we don't agree on anything Trump. So, I said one day to him, like, I don't understand how somebody so amazing as you and your wife can love someone and support someone so nefarious and disgusting. And without really answering that question, he said, people are a culmination of their culture and their experience and their upbringing. So as I continue to find out more about my uncles and their upbringing and their experiences, I find out, of course, that they've been in some situations with not just Mexicans, but a bunch of people where bad things have happened. But they never talked about some of the things that they did for these bad things to happen. So I'm like, man, are you kidding me right now? Even in my 40s, I'll say my 30s. You should know I'm 40. Even in my 30s, I used to trip out about that conversation. Like, still trip out about that conversation. Like, these grown-ass men took this 12-year-old girl into a room and wanted to talk to her about hanging out with Mexicans. I'm like, my best friend lives next door, and he Mexican as hell. And that has never happened. As a matter of fact, he might be the one going down in blazing thunder with me. So how you gonna say something like that and then be like, hey, Frankie, come over? People are a culmination of their culture and their experiences. And as I continue to learn about some of the more ridiculous experiences that some of my uncles have had growing up, I can see where they would get that idea, but the way that you communicate it to someone, that was foul. That was just, I don't think I've ever really looked at them the same, with that same level of respect as I did before they made that proclamation to me as who to stay away from and because. And then it was never going into detail. That's the one thing I do respect about my mom, is she was happy to go into detail with me about some of the things that had happened. If I asked the question, she just assumed that I was prepared for the answer. I didn't ask them no questions, and they gave me a bunch of tomfoolery that I still want to know what made them at that moment feel like they needed to tell me to stay away from a certain culture of people. And the thing is, as I got older, I would have friends that would tell me about conversations, let's say if they were Black, their parents or grandparents or uncles and aunts would tell them about not hanging out with certain white people or, Asian. We had a lot of Asian gangs in San Jose, things that would happen. Or I had white friends that would tell me about how their family really didn't want them dealing with Black people, or African-American girls, African-American boys not to be with white girls. So even though that was my first time really seeing and having that conversation, what I realized is that a lot of cultures have older people come to them, young ones, and tell them not to deal with another nationality of people. That's like a thing. And Black people are not immune from that. We do that too. I don't do that, but it was done to me. My mom's never said anything to me like that, but my uncles said that. Like, they literally said, don't hang out with Hispanics because they will beat you up, stab you, and leave you for dead. Again, of course, I find out later that one of them had been beat up and left for dead, but I also found out that he had been doing some dumb shit too. So, then there's that. But at the same time, it's just important to understand that we all have things that go on in our cultures that lead us to believe something else. Now, the trick is, are you someone that will tell your kids don't hang out with a certain culture of people? Because everybody's not the same. And older For me, I have had older, never the younger ones, African Americans, tell me or warn me against a certain other culture. And that was the thing with my uncles was just the first time, but I've heard it before. So to actually say, oh, black people can't be racist, or, minorities can't be racist. Nah, fool, we warn our people against other cultures too. It's janky. I don't think it's okay. And it breeds so many misconceptions in kids. So even though maybe they get older and they recognize maybe that wasn't so smart, it's too late, because now you've already started breeding these ideas into our young kids. And then they go into the world thinking that this is a regular thing. Like this is what we do. We warn our kids away from other kids. It's funny. I like looking at pictures of kids on playgrounds, and there's no color line. Kids will play with anybody that look any kind of way. They do not care. They don't care if you rich, poor, y'all the same age and you play dodgeball, y'all all playing dodgeball. Y'all the same age and you play tetherball, y'all all playing tetherball. It's really around that junior high school age where people start to separate, right? They start to hang out with their own. And it makes me wonder, who is telling them that they can't, if you're black, you can't hang out over here, or if you're white, you can't hang out over here, or what separates them? Even with law enforcement, I was talking to a couple of officers here in Redondo. I say one of the things that I really want to explore is when kids are really small, they want to be officers. A lot of kids want to be police officers when they grow up. And, they'll do that for Halloween. And then as they get into junior high school, they start having that, we got to stay away from cops. And by high school into college, they're like, and the anti-police. What is that change that takes place from we can all play together to now we're in our separate corners, or we love the police department and now we hate them? There is something in that middle ground that we as caring citizens can do to fix some of the social ridiculousness that's going on right now. And I do think that it's up to us that recognize that those things aren't okay to make that change, because the more we can do things together and we appreciate each other, the better it is for everybody. Like the kids that see us all hanging out together and being good, and their next generation, like we really got to do better, because this separatism is really harming our youth. It's not okay. And they don't start out like this. No one's born racist. So there's something that happens, and we really need to start taking a look at how we contribute to that, and then how we can improve that. So give it some thought. I'd love your input and your thoughts. And have you ever been told not to hang out with somebody of your culture, right? And who was that by? Like, entertain me. I'm wide open for you guys. So go ahead, let me know that I'm not alone, and you got crazy folks in your family too. All right. Again, if you ain't got it, you better get it. And we'll be back, later this week or next week with another episode of the vlog.